Hornet versus Lace. What is the true relationship between these two rivals, and what can we learn from their brilliant musical teams? Hi, today we are embarking on a seriously tough, ambitious mission, a massive comparative analysis between Hornet's team from Hollow Knight and Lace's team from Silksong. Let's see if these two guys, or bugs, are actually as radically different as they seem on the surface, or if we can uncover some totally unexplored territory woven in silk. So, without further ado, Karama! Have you ever noticed how the rhythm of a boss fight fundamentally dictates your physical response as a player? In traditional Western music, the meter, or time signature, provides a nice and cozy framework that your ears can easily anticipate. But what happens when a composer wants to weaponize that meter against you? Rhythmic ambiguity becomes an incredibly potent tool for psychological destabilization, and it can voice very different philosophies of combat. Hornet, the daughter of Hollow Knight. Her music translates her physical agility as a quote-unquote martial artist into a fluid framework defined by deep metrical ambiguity. To do this, our guy, Mr. Larkin, relies heavily on a very cool composition technique called the Hemiola. Simply put, a Hemiola refers to 3 beats in the time normally occupied by 2 beats. Let's do some math, shall we? Say we have 6 notes of equal value. How can we group them into even groups? I'll give you 5 seconds to reply while I take the chance to try out this new YouTube quiz function. The answer is, of course, 3 and 2. You can group 6 notes either into 3 groups of 2 notes each or 2 groups of 3 notes each. Now, say you want to accent the first note of each group. You'd gather a meter that can be perceived as either a duple meter, so 2 beats in a bar, or a triple meter, 3 beats in a bar. The unpredictable shifting in accents create this crazy driving tension where you can't quite find your footing. In fact, if you look at the community sheet music transcriptions for Hornet's team, there's an ongoing debate about what the actual time signature is. The musical pulse oscillates so rapidly that, believe it or not, both sides of the argument are actually right. The cool thing of this composition is that it intentionally blurs the line between these two worlds. The accents shift almost measure by measure, keeping your internal metronome perpetually off balance. Now, on the flip side, Lace, the daughter of Farloom. She counters with an aggressive 5/4 time signature. What the is that? Well, in Western classical music, 5/4 is what we call an irregular meter. Because our ears are culturally conditioned to seek comfort in even symmetrical numbers like 2, the duality of man, and 3, the trinity of God, a 5/4 rhythm inherently feels to our brains like a musical limp. In the second movement of Tchaikovsky's famous Symphony No. 6, the 5/4 time signature is famously deployed to create a literal limping waltz. While it possesses the graceful characteristics of Tchaikovsky's iconic ballet music, its missing beat imparts a deeply unsteady rhythm. It projects a sense of joy that is forced and heavily constrained. As the music critic Charles O'Connell famously wrote, it feels as if gaiety were constantly under constraint, directed not by careless joy, but by a determination to be joyful. And boy, oh boy, if this sentence doesn't sound appropriate to describe Lace's character, an elegant, dexterous appearance, this forced determination to appear joyful, almost silly, right? That thinly masks a deeply unsettling, nervous and dangerous core. Plus, look how the bass line stays constantly on the upbeat. This makes it even more difficult to find your ground, giving you the feeling that the music is always suspended mid-air. And I gotta be honest here, guys, when I was transcribing the Lace team and started to get into these crazy time signature shifts, I wasn't entirely sure about the outcome. Think what you want about game music, classical music and all that better and worse BS, but these compositions are dense. The accent, the counterpoint, it's quite a lot. But hey, we have to push through, because if you think the rhythm is crazy, wait until you see what I found about melody and harmony. By this point, we have all learned how beautifully the music in Hollow Knight reflects the game's deep, intricate lore. First and foremost, the Hornet theme is a direct musical descendant of the White Palace theme. By directly quoting this music, the score establishes a clear bloodline. Hornet is the biological daughter of the Pale King. The music itself, it's her birthright. But what about Lace then? You probably know by now the overarching musical shadow hanging over Farloom and known to music nerds as the Dies Irae motif. For those of you who managed to escape the geeks, the Dies Irae is a famous 13th century Gregorian chant, probably older actually, historically used in music to signify the last judgment and impending doom. Silksong is a game where faith plays a central role, so it's no wonder that Larkin decided to go for such a symbolism. Here, the soundtrack deliberately departs from the single, dominant key signature style of the first game, where almost every major theme revolved around E minor, to favor a much more diverse ecosystem of creatures and stories. Even Grandmother Silk, the main villain of the game and effectively Lace's mother figure, doesn't have her own unique theme. Instead, she gets a fatalistic, ominous reinterpretation of the Dies Irae. But here's the massive twist. Just like Hornet's theme is completely disconnected from the main theme of Hollow Knight, also Lace's theme is completely disconnected from the Dies Irae motif. It is a fully fledged, entirely unique composition that doesn't share a single major motif with neither her mother or the theocracy of Farloom. We know Lace resents her creator because Grandmother Silk fashioned her merely as a servant, expecting dominance rather than love. Is that the reason why these two themes share absolutely no musical correlation? Well, let me tell you what happened to me last Tuesday. I was transcribing these two themes, right? Look closely at how both of these themes are constructed. Both melodies share a nearly identical melodic contour. They both start precisely on the fifth note of their respective scales, briefly circle around it from above and below, and then cascade beautifully down to hit the tonic, the home note, at the exact end of the phrase. When I first mapped that out, it completely blew my mind. I couldn't believe I missed it before. I think I've listened to Lace's theme like 1000 times. Like, what's wrong with my ears? And you know what? I don't think the reason they are so similar is because of a lore connection. No, it's meta-narration. These two characters play the exact same narrative role across both games. They are the noble antagonist, a true peer that you duel against instead of slaughter, someone who challenges you and who will eventually become, if not an ally, at least a respected rival. So I got this comment on Instagram the other day that cracked me up. And so, in the best tradition of this newly born channel, before we get into the third act, I want to give you the harmonic speedrun and % no damage analysis that you were looking for. This time though, I'm gonna make it a little bit harder by putting the two scores side by side. So that's gonna be fun. Are you ready? Let's start with Hornet. Right off the gate, we get this frantic staccato string ostinato. It keeps everything weighted, eventually wrapping up the first 4 bars with this clean stepwise cadence. Lace takes a completely different path. It's an angular chord sequence anchored by a lot of oblique movements. Look at that. By freezing a note right in the middle of the texture, look at this. Larkin creates this uncanny friction, giving us weird gems like this D add 4/F sharp chord in bar 3. We'll talk about this one later, okay? Back to Hornet. Larkin keeps the same background ostinato chugging along, right? But the melody starts to absolute race. It essentially derails by climbing into the upper register, stepping up through a G in bar 8 to an F in bar 9 for a huge lift. Lace, bar 5 to 8. The underlying harmony repeats what we just heard, but look at the upper parts. Larkin introduces a literally fencing motif. It's a crisp little line that steps up sequentially at the end of every single bar. Hornet. The music throws sudden, violent, rhythmic punches over a D minor 7 harmony and then smashes into a gorgeous B flat Neapolitan 6 in bar 12. Lace. The track abruptly ditches the frantic groove and shifts into a martial 3/4 time signature. Back to Hornet. Hornet gives you this immediate gratification. The soaring main theme takes off instantly in the high strings over this relentless A minor ostinato. Lace, bar 18 to 25. Lace plays hard to get. We shift back to 5/4, but instead of a melody we get this total flex of agility, all flying rounds and trills in bar 21, 25 over the intro's chord. The second half of Hornet's theme starts descending through F and D minor, looping back around onto a tense E sus dominant chord in bar 21, while the right hand screams upward with a rapid 16 notes that it won't be able to replicate right now. Oh, lucky shot. Lace. Bar 26, the true theme finally lands, and it totally subverts expectations. Hovering melody glides over a smooth 8 notes ostinato. Instead of being hectic, it turns secure and lyrical. Hornet's theme gets handed down to the lower strings while the double basses punch out the rhythm. It hits this D in the first inversion before breaking the development and resolving to an F in bar 27. Lace repeats the melody an octave higher, but the whole vibe shifts to a steady pulsing rhythm. It digs into even denser harmonic territory, dwelling on an E flat major 7 bar 36 and a C minor 7 bar 38 before climbing to an F sharp in bar 41. Hornet. Talk about tension generation. Larkin isolates Hornet's descending motif and uses it as an addictive stacking device. The harmony climbs aggressively through E in first inversion, G major, F sharp first inversion, A kinda leading, until in bar 42 the waltz sound snaps. Okay, that was fun. Listen, while I catch a breath, feel free to contribute to the thread and add your own ideas in the comment section. I love to hear your thoughts. Quick question, what do warriors actually do in a duel? They get into position, they test each other's strengths, they attack, they parry. Well, what if I told you that every single one of these gestures has a musical equivalent? Meet Robert Hatton, this guy. In 2004, he introduced a brilliant idea: musical gesture. Because our brains naturally understand what it feels like to run, to trip, to sigh, or to celebrate, we instantly recognize those same actions and emotions when they happen in sound. Even though sometimes music has no lyrics to go with it, composers constantly use sudden pauses, heavy chords, or melody leaps to act out secret theatrical plays inside the rules of the musical piece. Do they do that deliberately? Absolutely not. It's embedded physicality gesture, which is ultimately part of the experience of being human. Have you ever heard the sentence, music is a language? Well, Hatton completely flipped the script, suggesting that music, with its theatrical gestures and human expressivity, actually anticipates language. And so we could say that music is not a form of language, but language is a form of music. Hornet's introduction builds a fantastic energy by climbing only to drop a deeply aristocratic, I would say, classical composition move, a Neapolitan 6th chord. Its function is predominant, its goal is alert, it protects, it attack, but most importantly, its power lies in its capacity for suspension. It almost feels like freezing time for a second. There are a ton of examples of this chord in music history. Every single time it shows up, it has a different effect. But one thing is absolutely certain: a composer never uses this chord by accident. Let's switch over to Lace now. Lace's theme doesn't seek to evoke grand, sweeping tragedy. It's much more chaotic, hectic, deliberately deceptive. Among all the grinding, dissonant intervals Larkin throws at us, the most brutal is this awesome flat 9 mega clash, a highly dissonant interval that forces the bass to grind directly against the top line. And let me tell you, it doesn't get any more dissonant than this, well, at least not in Western classical music. Take König by Franz Schubert, for example. By the way, this is one of those pieces that you must listen at least once in your life. Both the original version and the insane solo violin one, check out Ilarian's video for that. Schubert's setting utilizes this exact minor 9th interval to represent the Angstschrei. the terrifying cry of fear from a helpless child being hunted by a supernatural creature, kind of a 19th century version of Stranger Things. And you know what's fun? The key of König is G minor, the same of Lace's theme, and they share quite some similarities: ostinatos, staccatos, frantic and aggressive bassline, lots of dissonant intervals. In Schubert's work, these minor ninth intervals create a scream-like quality that intensifies the sense of raw terror and vulnerability. Larkin has explicitly cited Baroque pieces, particularly the music of Vivaldi, as a major influence on his scores, noting that Vivaldi's writing is swift, virtuosic, and precise. In Hornet's theme, right at the Neapolitan chord that we mentioned before, the strings deliver a blazing triplet sweep. It's a literal musical sword swoosh, or shall I say needle swoosh, a clean, showy demonstration of pure dexterity drawing strain from pieces like The Storm from Vivaldi's Summer, cutting the introduction clean in half to announce that the duel has officially commenced. Lace's theme takes a much more calculated, I'd say predatory approach. Instead of one big flashy flourish, the upper strings introduce a hectic rhythmic motif that acts as a tense counterweight to the bass line, which, as we said before, almost never lands on the downbeat. Once Hornet's main theme finishes, the arrangement plunges you into a fencing match of staccato stabs, a sort of musical parry. Right after that, to build up to the final climax, the score uses a portion of the melody that literally stacks on top of itself, climbing higher and higher bar by bar. Now, look at Lace. She wants you to attack first. After dropping out of that chaotic 5-4, it goes right into this martial 3-4 time for a brilliant parry and counter. Look how the attack of the high strings get immediately parried and counterattacked by the low strings. This section uses a textbook and weirdly basic chord progression. It feels shockingly safe and predictable, probably to lower your guard. I don't know, I guess we will never know. When you step back to observe the totality of these two pieces, it becomes very clear that the musical clash between Hornet and Lace is far more than a mere test of a player's gaming reflexes. This duality maps flawlessly onto the classic storytelling of Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, the White Queen and the Red Queen. They symbolize the fundamental conflict between contrasting forces, chaos and order, passion and reason. The White Queen is a figure of reflection, age, and deep manners. In stark contrast, the Red Queen represents pure power, control, and the harsh realities of survival. Despite the colors being inverted, Hornet and Lace are locked in this exact eternal dialogue, a poetic duel between two opposite and surprisingly similar forces. And yet, beneath the swooshes, the screams, the traps, and all the garama, the melody reveals a common structural shape. This is not the music of bitter enemies bent on mutual destruction. It's the music of mutual recognition. It is the realization that to find a true equal in this world is a rare, terrifying, and beautiful intimacy. That is a wrap. I need a glass of water. I hope you had fun with this video. By the way, I want to thank you all for all your likes and comments. We're slowly but surely growing, and I'm glad to be part of this community and contribute to the love for games and music. If you like this breakdown, please hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. I got plenty more deep dive analysis coming your way, and come say hi over on Instagram, where I'm dropping music breakdowns and running Q&As. Let me know what you think in the comment, drop in a question, add your own lore, do whatever it takes to help the algorithm know that you want more of these videos. And with that being said, have a nice day, catch up later.